here lately, I've been going back through a lot of my videos and just to see where I was at, see what I was learning and what I have learned at this point, to understand the lessons that I have been trying to learn so desperately. When you're used to your life constantly being on fire or depressing or whatever, you're learning a new way of being, and you see where you have attached anxiety and fear to the most mundane things. It's also very humbling to know that all you had to do was change your mind and walk out of it. And what people don't tell you about this process is there's actually a grieving process to this, where you're leaving your old self behind because you're making new, you're not only creating new patterns of behaviors, you're taking the actions that go with it. What use is knowledge if you're not using it, right? If you know that you've been going the wrong direction, if you know that you've been taking the wrong steps, if you're not taking the actions going towards what you really want, then you're staying in place on purpose. I have a quote on my mirror that says, "The life that you are living now through your actions is the life that you believe that you deserve." The life that you are living right now through your actions is the life that you believe you deserve. Say it again, because that's when it'll hit home. And I have done so much work around myself about changing my mindset, about changing my body, about my health, my everything. I am a walking experiment, science experiment. It's a growth thing. It's finding the things that not only work for you, but understanding that you can change those too. It doesn't have to be one set of rules, one set of actions that get you to the point where you need to go. But I also noticed where there are, because of my age probably, and probably because of everything that I had been through, it took me a moment I stepped, and then got used to it. I got used to doing those actions, thinking those thoughts. You literally have to think about the thoughts that you say to yourself in your mind to help yourself to grow, because there will be the most childlike fears that will stand in front of you because of the things that you've been taught or the things that you've been told, or the opinions of others that have been ingrained in you. Is that I've never had any compassion for myself. I've always had it for other people, but I've never had it for myself. And to struggle and to fail and then to get back up and then to repeat the pattern over and over again is an act of compassion for yourself, to be able to walk through those fears and those anxieties and those ingrained ideas from a particular culture, even just a family unit. You know, one of the hardest things for me to understand was that I had lived my life in a cage with the door wide open. And they don't tell you about, they tell you how to change, but they don't tell you about the grieving process of this. And you go through a process where you grieve the time lost. You grieve the mistakes made. You just grieve. And I have grieved a version of myself each time that I have left behind. And because she didn't know any better. She really didn't know any better. She didn't know how to get out of her own fucking way to move forward to something better, a life that she deserved. And now when I come upon moments in my life where I don't know what's going to happen, there is no fear. There is the thought. There is the feeling of how exciting. How exciting is this? We're going to learn something new. We're going to grow a different direction. And I will tell you that it came from the misery of standing still, the misery of not taking action. Because when you are aggravated, when you are sad, when you are escaping, when you are depressed, you are living a life that you do not want. And it is so exhausting living the life that you don't want. I have learned over time that when my excitement is more than my fear, then I'm going the right direction. I actually have something that I had written on my refrigerator. It says, I've never lost a thing by moving to the sound of my own heart, but I have lost plenty by standing still in mediocre and misery. And I literally wrote it on a torn envelope and stuck it on my refrigerator. It was a reminder. It was don't pass by this, read it through and understand it. And then on the back side it says, there's nothing new that will show up in your life until you have the audacity to walk towards new possibilities. You can read these things and you can pass them by. Or you can believe in them. And you can believe in yourself. It is a process of grace, of compassion. Not just for your own faults and failures, but it's a walk of humility that very few people understand. And there is a truth to it that scares the shit out of people. And then other people, it makes them extremely angry. Because how dare you? I'm sitting in misery, and I want you to sit in misery too. And they will do whatever they can do to drag you backwards. Understand how short this life is when you understand that you can either sit in the misery or you can go towards the happiness. You know, I'm gonna scoot every time. I'm done. I'm done living a life of misery that I wasn't even a player in the game. I was allowing everybody else to make my decisions for me. Not only to make my decisions for me, but to have them, I handed who I am to somebody else and I said, please define me. Please tell me that I'm worthy. And that was a huge mistake. But I had been taught to do that since I was a child. And to change that mindset takes learning about who you actually are. And I will tell you that I lost nothing. I lost nothing of myself, but I gained back everything that I knew I was. And when it stood up, I wanted to make sure that it stood up in the right way, the correct way, which is a very fallible human being who has walked through a shitstorm to get here, to be here, to grow, to allow other people the same grace. You're either going to listen to the people who are so incredibly unhappy. Their arrogance is standing in the way of everything that they want. I don't need to be right. I don't need to be right about anybody. I'm telling you right now, happy was more important to me. It took guts to stand on the foundation of who I am. And not with just words, but to back it up. And when you fall and when you fail, you admit it and you talk about it. You will take the steps towards what is right for you. I'm not willing to look like the majority of the people that I have taken care of off and on for close to 31 years. Because slowly but surely what they're learning is you wasted it. You wasted it all. You wasted life. You wasted the happiness. You wasted what you could have done. You wasted what you could have been. And you could have started over at any point in your life, and yet you chose. It was a choice. It was a choice for me to sit in that misery because I had no idea that I knew any better. I had no idea that anything else existed. When I knew better, I was bound and determined I was going to do better. These kids are figuring it out before we did, because there was a time and a moment in our own lives when we were very young, before we were jaded and bitter. We looked at things and we thought, that's not right. And what's changed between then and now is technology. Back then, if we said anything, we got the shit beat out of us. And how many times in your life have you ever heard, you're not going to change that? Not one single time will I ever accept that anymore for the rest of my life. That is not truth. There is no truth in that. Because with deliberate actions, focused on yourself, you can and you will change yourself. And instead of being so caught up in what's happening next week or next month or next year, I'm more concerned with what's happening today. What's happening in this moment. And technology has given us a way not only to know and understand that we're not alone, but to give us the inspiration that we really need to grow, to change, and it be real. And you can create any life that you want to. I'm probably slower than most, simply because I'm older and I'm taking very careful steps. Who I am now is nothing like I was before. And that's very hard for people to understand. I actually posted it on Facebook. It was a reel, and it had a quote in there by Carl Jung that I have read before, and it was a game changer in my life. The burden of the child is the unlived life of the parent. And as I have traveled and walked myself through this, I have felt some of the most overwhelming compassion for the ignorance of my parents and what they did not get to experience and what they did not get to live. But I also have that for my child, because she did not have the human being that she needed to raise her correctly. She was handed anxiety, codependency, lack of self-worth, and no child should be handed that and other toxic behaviors from their parent. And that is a grieving process, to know that you have done life so wrong. And not just one part of my life, the whole thing. It was all a lie from the ground up. And that took a minute to grieve too. Because when you take all of that out, when you realize that your entire life, everything that you have ever lived is a lie, and there is a hole in you that you will never, ever be able to explain. When you've grown up with nothing but pain, chaos, addictions, codependent behaviors, narcissism, that looks like home. And it is an addiction. It is truly an addiction. It is something that you have no idea how to live without. And I will tell you that the first time that I ever felt myself without that in my life, I can't even put it into words. The gratitude that I had. That's a process in itself. You have to understand that you are now safe, that you can breathe. You can take your life in a whole different direction. And that even took me a minute to even understand that as you're walking through it, you want everything right then. I want it now. I want to go forward. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, honey, you cannot run before you learn to walk. It just took time. It just took time. The need to constantly get up and move and do something and be productive constantly 24 hours a day is a trauma response in itself. And I like to never figure that out. The very first time that I ever learned to just kind of slow down, to rest, to let go, honey, I was judging my damn self. I'm not lazy. And if you have ever worked with me, you know I'm not lazy. But it was just something in my mind that if I'm not being productive, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough to be loved. I'm not doing enough to be liked. I'm not doing enough to be rewarded for what I was doing. I had to do more. It didn't have anything to do with anybody else. It had to do with what I had been taught inside, that no matter what I did, as fast as I could go, as much as I could do, I was never going to be enough. That is a taught response. I want to surround myself, and I have learned to surround myself with good people who are thoughtful in their words and their actions. There are people who look at their own stupidity, like me, but they will start asking questions like, "Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure that decision is what's best for you? Can you sit with that just for a second? Do you think that's the best course of action for you?" I tell you what, I told somebody last year, I don't know what my life is going to look like, but I know what it's going to feel like. And I'll tell you why. Because I had the audacity to let the universe show me what could be. And I believe in that. And when you believe in something bigger than you, sometimes you surrender to what's beating the shit out of you and you walk towards what is good for you, what fills your heart and your soul and is true happiness. I never even knew what true happiness was before. Never in my life. Absolutely never in my life. Never in my life have I known what true love was until now. And it took the longest time for me to understand it. And it does not mean that you have to sit in the middle of the most toxic situations, whether it be a situationship, a relationship, or your job. Because if you sit in that toxicity for long enough, I have said it over and over again, you'll become it. No matter what your intention is. No matter how many times you are showing up for people and you are like, I am here to help. I am here I don't want anything in return. I am here for you. I just want you to be happy. I just want to help you go forward. Here I am, buddy. Participate in your rescue. I'm right here. I'm willing to help any way that I can. It does not matter. People who are that steeped in misery do not see a way out. They cannot see past their misery, and they will drag you right back into it. And along the way, you will learn that lesson over and over and over again in different aspects of your life until you finally get it, until you finally walk out of it. And it is that simple. You will hold your hand over the proverbial candle. You will have the absolute dog shit beat out of you in whatever way possible until you realize this is not happiness. This is not where I belong. I am not staying here. There is something else. There is another way I know. When one door closes, another one will open. Do you really trust in that process? This is why I have no religion. I don't want to be so comfortable in a process that I forget exactly what it means. When you're wishing people harm, that has nothing to do with the outside world. That has to do with the inside world of you. That's what I wanted to walk away from. Because I had people surrounding me my whole life who couldn't see past their own hatred of themselves, their own misery. And that is what they shone out to the world. Happy people don't do that. And they're very compassionate about it. And they're putting a hand back saying, hey, I get it. Let's take baby steps towards something else. Let's create something different. And there are people that are so stuck in their belief system and in their misery. That has become the ultimate addiction. I made a promise to myself that I was going to use every gift I had and the fearlessness that I have cultivated to walk past the illusion of I can't. And to walk towards I did it. I'm living it. And I turn around behind me and I talk about the failures. I talk about the pitfalls. So people know that they have an exit route if they want it. With that information, I can't wait to see what you create.